Charlie, Touma, good morning. How are you?
Mate, unbelievable lives yourself.
Good. Always good to see you, mate.
Takes us back.
It does. It does. What's this been?
Indeed.
Almost a 20-year association.
20 years.
Yeah.
20 years. I reckon people still forget that I was at McGrath's doing leasing when you and Shannon were there, and when you mate jump ship. Shannon sort of. I asked Shannon, why'd you guys leave? Can I still come? And he said, why would you leave McGrath's at the time? So I remember we worked at Warren Duncan's office, at the back of Warren Duncan's office before we moved into Victoria Street next to Larderia. So, mate, a lot of history,
A
a lot to
lot.
be grateful for, a lot to be grateful for.
Funny how it all started and where we are today. I
Absolutely.
mean, you've had a great. Oh, look, I feel grateful that we're friends. I
100%.
can just email you and say, "Hey, mate, how you going?" And 6 months ago, you rang me and we had a bit of a session. And I feel grateful that for 20 years we've worked together, we've socialised together. I know your family. We've sold a lot of real estate together. You've gone off and done your own thing. You came back to Bresic, you went off and did your own thing. You came back. You've got your own business you've had for a number of years. It's a successful business. It's getting bigger. I've always admired that, but I just feel very grateful to have had a 20-year association. I hope it continues, mate.
Yeah, I think, like it's ironic how we're here today. Like I said, we've been through ups, downs, in betweens. We've competed against each other. We've worked alongside each other. I've left, I've come back. There was times that you don't see eye to eye, and you can still look back 22 years later and have a conversation like this. And I'm very grateful. The older I get, actually, the more grateful I
Yeah,
become about what, because like at the time, there's ego, and you don't realize how much people like yourself and Shannon and back in the day actually help you, right? You don't actually realize. So the older you get, the more you look back and go, probably owe those blokes a bit more, a lot of credit, I should say. So thank you.
oh, mate, it's reciprocal. I mean, you were our best agent for years. I still remember when you left Bresic, Whitney, and I was like, oh, that's a hard one the first time
Mm,
because you were
don't
the.
think it was the right move.
I don't know if it was or wasn't. We all had our own journey, but like as an owner of the business that's trying to build a business and your number one top salesperson leaves who's 30 years old, who's a gun, like
Yeah,
they say everybody's replaceable, but I was like, no, I don't think Charlie's
yeah.
replaceable.
It's
Anyway,
funny. It's funny how you learn. You make mistakes, you learn, you go back. It's all the journey, right?
it is.
It's all part of it. It's all part of it. I look back. There was so many things that I'd probably change, and but then you go, well, it's probably brought me here today. So it's all part of the journey, and you learn, and you keep charging.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of the reason why I wanted to bring you on and have a conversation with you because you're
Yeah,
someone who's always charged. A lot of
yeah,
people don't know, mate, that your dad's a property developer, Paul,
yeah,
and he's very successful, more successful than all of us in his own right. So
yeah.
I was always confused. Why would you get into real estate sales and
Mm.
grind like the way we have when you could have just gone into the family business at 20, 22, 25 years old and become a property developer, which a lot of real estate agents think about but never do.
Yeah. Oh, I think property development, mate, that type of people think property development's all about just putting sites together and not getting your hands dirty, mate. My brother runs our property development business. I would not do that if you gave me all the money in the world. It is the most stressful job possible. You have to be hands on, mate. It's cutthroat. You lose a deal, you could be working on that for 2 or 3 years. Especially these days, profit margins have gone out of it. Building costs have gone through the roof, and I know you say property development, but my dad was on. They used to labour, they used to do all types of things. So I saw what they had to do. They worked their butts off. They didn't have the cost to just have people building for them. They were the builders, and it probably wasn't for me. It didn't appeal to me. I didn't want to turn up every day on the building site and look at labouring and getting dirty. And
Mm.
I don't know why I got into the real estate game, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, it will suit you. So that's, I mean, so like a lot of the high performers I speak to and have a conversation with, they're all like you. They've got this certain tenacity about them. I watched you as a 20-year-old come through. So I had the benefit of seeing this young leasing agent who comes to, in an early days Bresic Winnie. How did you why did you always make calls? Like all the high performers say you got to make more calls. You made calls from the age of 20 with no fear. So
Yeah,
we don't need to talk about how successful you are today. Everyone knows how successful you
yeah,
are and your journey. I'm curious about that first 10 years, how you got so good so quick.
yeah. So strip it back.
Mm.
So you guys were pretty direct about how you were going to make a name, right? So when you said I made a lot of calls,
Mm.
it's hard to make a call to someone that hasn't come through your open home, like these cold RP data and all this type of stuff. Like as a young person, I can understand the fear there, but what all I was doing, I was just going to you. I remember going to you and Shannon going, you sell a property on Saturday. I'd say, can I do the old callback books? Like, honestly, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I went through an old callback book. I told my staff to do it. We had 126 people through 152 Reservoir Street in Surrey Hills.
Mm.
There was 28 contracts out. We've had 3 or 4 listings since then, and I've asked my young guys to actually go through the book, and I checked yesterday, and they didn't do it. So at 42, I went and did it.
Yeah.
I picked up 5 owners, 2 people that bought on Goodlet Street, Surrey Hills,
Yeah.
another one that bought in Redfern, and another one that bought in Darlinghurst. And that was in about an hour and a half of working. I then picked up 4 buyers that at the time said they had a $2 million budget. Now they're wealthy investors from the north. Now they've increased their budget to $3 million. They just missed out on 13 Norfolk Street. The amount of information I got out of that, and I said to my guys, I go, guys, like you're starting your journey.
Yeah.
I can't compare. So why did I make calls? Well, I was calling people and saying, hey, we had you down looking to buy. Have you found anything? Can we help you? Very easy phone call. Yeah. No, we bought something. Where'd you buy? Database. Oh, yeah, no, you can help us. What are you looking for? What's most important? What are your needs? What are the deal breakers? And then service them. Like, it was a no-brainer. No-brainer. So I didn't look at it and say, well, I'm making calls. I was like, well, just how did I help and service a buyer? And the byproduct of that was, building a relationship, building a database, and then we went from there.
So you just said that yesterday you decided to go through the just sold calls of Reservoir Street, right? Bally last week, James Ball said to me exactly the same thing. He goes, I was sitting there and he goes, I just started going through these sold calls, right? Doing sold calls. He said, my team had the opportunity to do it. For some reason, they didn't do it. So I jumped on it and I did it and I got some really good opportunities out of it. Why do you think some of these why do you think the young ones, you and Bally, both, in the top 1%, are sitting there doing it? You guys are the last people who probably have to do it. The young guys are sitting there in your office, young guys and girls, they have that opportunity. Why do you think that they don't do it, mate? If you had
just to let you know, that sale of Reservoir Street was only $2 million. It wasn't a $4 million sale or something like that. So it was only $2 million. Okay. So why? Because they play the short game. That's the answer. Everyone's looking for the listing now, deal now, instant gratification. You need to believe and have faith. This is a long game, right? You just got to understand that. And I think the younger people they want to get from 0 to 10 as quick as they can. It just doesn't do that. I met some guy, Luke Hogan's assistant, the other day from Paddo, and we're talking about cold calling, and I said, you guys had this house on Glenmore Road. He goes, yeah. I said, mate, how many buyers are there? About 130. I said, if I was you, that's all I would be focusing on, like that 130 people. And if you actually take time, take time to go through the book and like McClay says, rinse it. Like, just rinse the fucker. Yeah. You'd be surprised what you're going to get out of that. But the younger people, I think everyone, when we started, Ivan, RP data cold calling and stuff, we never did it. Never, not one. We never made one phone call from RP data in the first 10 years.
No door knocking.
No door knocking, no RP data.
Yeah.
And now everyone's like these call centers, RP data, how to get, Domino's lists, like buying lists and shit.
Yeah.
It's all rubbish.
Yeah. Yeah. So for everyone listening, I mean, he's just mentioned 2 things. old callback books, there's gold in it. Bally said the same thing last week. Charles has just said, mate, everyone's playing the short game. They have to be playing the long game. So that's really good. How would you describe your style, Charlesy?
It's funny, right? So my style early days was a very erratic, high energy. Always like playing, trying to work as fast as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing though that I went away from was you got to know what you're good at and what you enjoy in the game, right? But I was fucking great at buy work, right? I was so good at it and I loved it, and I got away from it, right? Like I started, as I wanted to get better, I saw, you got to delegate the buy work into the associates, and I should be doing all this prospecting. And the other day, mate, I sat there in a week. I made 300 database calls to my database.
Yeah.
Felt unfulfilled. I got not much, no listings out of it, but probably connected. And I was like, it didn't, like, probably unfulfilled, right? Unsatisfied. I said, scrap that. Went and going back. Then I started calling old callback books. Point of sale, point. What comes in, work that. And I was like meeting owners. I met, I was speaking to people from the database that had come through, meeting buyers. And I just said, for me, I felt so much more satisfied and fulfilled, right? So for me now, I would never delegate my buyer work out. Like, that is, for me, that's the bullets to my gun. If I know the best buyers in the market, go to a listing, I'll go to any negotiation, and I'll go to a vendor meeting, and I can talk firsthand about exactly what is happening in the market, who the best buyers, what their motivation, frustrations are, what their budgets, what they missed out. That is the secret to this game.
Yes.
Without buyer work, without buyers, you got a gun without bullets, right? You're shooting blanks. Yeah. So me now is the prospecting is one thing, and I get all that. But with emails and text messages, and you can do it. For me, I love just being point of sale, being present with my listings, and actually focusing on the better buys in the market, and everything will come through that. So that, for my style now, is going back to what I really enjoy, and that's actually providing service. Yeah. You're helping people. Like, if I called you up, Ives, you're busy, you're with your son, or Ives, Charles, just checking in, mate, seeing if you're doing any buying or selling this year, and you're not, I am to some degree a little bit interrupting you, right? But if you came through an open home of mine and I called you up and said, Ivan, look, I know we met you at a few opens, had you down looking to buy, I was just wondering, mate, do you mind, can we help you, with this?
Yeah.
Probably more of a service rather than, that. So I know prospecting is important, but I can tell you that the buyer servicing part of what I do, I'd rather do 75 sales and do buyer servicing than 125 being, making 500 prospecting database calls, a week. It just, for me, I feel better.
Yeah, so that's a good point, everybody. Charlie's saying that early days, really strong at buyer work, got away from it when he started to build profile because listings were coming to him. He's gone back to it more now because he knows there's so many benefits from buyer work, listing, servicing people, building your database. You feel better. Yeah,
feel better. I really do. Like, I feel, that's the big one.
It's more, it's quality. It's a deeper connection. They want your help rather than,
correct.
It's rather than just trying to find
I've got a buyer, like, hey, you're not, hey, Charles, we've got an underbidder. They're not really, like, you're sort of trying to put like a square into a triangle, like you're trying to force.
Yeah.
So I'm working on flow, not force, like thing. Like with buyer work, they're in the market, they're active. And the prospecting's important. Don't get me wrong. Like, yes, we got to do that. But I enjoy my real estate game so much more when I'm present, and I'm just focusing on, I suppose, point of sale. And Shannon was the key. Like, let's face it, you and I, we had a very strong prospecting practice, but we never saw Shannon, calling streets, and we never did. He was very, he was like that. So, there's a little bit to learn, I suppose, from that.
Yeah, it was pretty targeted. How did a lot of people say, I want to work in that suburb or that suburb? Did you, for people who don't know, Charlie, I think they know you're a specialist in Redfern and surrounding. How
Yeah,
did you did you choose that when you were at BW? I assume it started there. Did did
yeah,
did you choose an area, or did you just sell everywhere when you were 22? And
yeah.
then as you got older, like when you went through your 20s, your database just happened to grow more in Redfern because you had more sales there. And before you know it, you become a Redfern specialist, which was easier for more deals and com.
Yeah.
What was that like?
In the early days, you had to take what you could get, right? I used to sell studios, Glen Eyre Avenue in Bondi, mate. I was doing a bit in the inner west, mate. I would
Dove
sell
Lane, Randwick.
Dove Lane, Randwick, mate, Allison Road, Randwick, that building opposite the racecourse. You and I used to sell in with, that Art Deco thing.
Yeah,
We went everywhere, right? But what you learn through that is point of sale. You learn how to transact, manage vendors. Like it's all part of the journey. But what I was under you for a long time, and even though you had a big area,
mm,
Surrey Hills, Darlinghurst, Redfern Terraces was probably still your core,
yeah,
right? Yes, you did your apartments, and we weren't as strong in Paddo back then. Remember, we weren't as strong. We did the Irish streets and the Napiers, but we never sort of did the bigger stuff, not as much. So naturally, when I was with you, I thought Surrey Hills, Terraces, and no one really focused on Redfern. So Surrey Hills and Redfern became the thing.
yes.
But that was just over time. But in
How
the
long?
early days,
How
yeah.
long for you? Because you were always a big prospector, but how long was it from when you first started selling to shit, man? At least 50% of my sales are coming. 50% of my opportunities coming from Redfern. What time do you reckon that
I think
was?
I left you guys. I must have left you when I was about 30, I reckon. About 10 years. I reckon it was about 10 years. I mean, a good like five to 10 years. So the first five was everywhere,
Yeah,
and then it started to peel back. But the only reason that would happen would be so you want to build better market share in one suburb. It's pretty simple. Just do more buy work in the suburb. That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Like that's it. You're like, so now I don't do old callbacks. I only do old callbacks in Redfern, Surrey. That's it. So I've got a list here in front of me of every house I've sold over 2 million bucks in Redfern and Surrey Hills in the last 12 months. And all I'm doing at the moment is I'm going through and rinsing every single book.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll do.
Yeah, that's what you do now, because you
Oh,
really,
yeah.
as you've gone, you've gotten clearer, and it's your marketplace has gotten better and stronger and thinner and thinner and thinner, and you're really specialised here, right? You
Mm-hmm.
you compete with some really good agents. You have to compete with BW agents, right?
Yep.
Daily. You're right in the thick of it. They're competing with you. You're competing with them, my former company, and other agents. It's a very
Mm-hmm.
competitive market, that inner city market. How do you how do you handle that how do you handle that competition?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
people would say, well, it's really hard to beat an agency that's got a lot of sales, or it's really
Yeah.
hard to beat an agent who's got a lot of profile. You've got profile. But the
Yeah.
question for you is, how do you approach? There's some agents who don't have to compete with the level of competition you do.
Um, yeah, well, you got to think. So when I was in the early days, we had a pretty good run, right? So when it was me, you, and Shannon, we didn't have a lot of competition. I mean, Servy sort of bailed out pretty early, and then when I left, competing against you and Will and Shannon made me better, and then that sort of made me a lot better, and then. The competition these days is getting better, like likes of Perky, and then Kowalski and Teddy Pie, and
Or,
there's more. They're all getting a little bit better. The way I work, guys, I'm just pretty upfront with people. I say, guys, I'm under no false illusions that I can't represent every listing in the market, and I'm not going to get every listing. So I just go and I just put exactly how I'm going to help to them,
yes,
and I just understand that I'm not going to get every piece of business, and that is okay.
yes,
But there are certain clients that will use me, and
yes,
there's certain clients that won't. And it took me a long time to work that out. I've got a whiteboard here, Ives, on this quarter that's just gone. So say I've listed 12, I've sold 12, I've lost 5, but I haven't been called into 20. So and this is just in my Redfern and Surrey Hills houses. So
Yeah.
I always track a little bit about that. My losses, like I said, I've lost 5. That's fine. I get that. But I'm also looking at, well, I didn't get called into 20. So what am I going to do? What am I going to do now to make sure that potentially I can get more on that shopping list? But competition just it makes you better, pal. That's the only thing I can say.
Yeah, I agree. When you think back to your 20s, CT,
Yeah.
if you had your time again, would you have done, because you were, for those who don't know, like you were our best agent, other than
Yeah.
me, Shannon, you were our best agent, and then you overtook us. And so, you were a really strong agent in that first 10-year period when you were with us, right? From associate to standalone to our number one agent. Would you have done anything, like, was there any mistakes you made in your 20s?
Heaps. Heaps.
Really?
Still making. Yeah, heaps.
Like
I
what comes to mind?
so the I was good at what I did, but I didn't take it. You look at people like, say, the younger guys now coming through, some of the guys that are doing the numbers, like the Teslons and even Gavin when he was younger.
Mm.
The disciplines that some of these guys, anyone that's riding, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Yeah.
there is a discipline to what they did, and that was just I couldn't keep it together for long periods, right? Like even now, like that's my biggest focus, and I'm still not perfect at it. It's the discipline side of it, being able to just get in the zone, stay in the zone. You preach no alcohol, which once again you see the agents that don't drink, the benefits they're getting, right? It's like you watch them.
Yeah.
So if I had my time again, I probably would have tried to work on the discipline side of it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have jumped around a lot. I probably should have hung around at BW a little bit longer, but I probably got so they were the main ones. Probably worked on this. I didn't realize self mastery in the early days. No one taught it. We didn't know. We thought we work hard, we party hard.
Yeah.
That was the formula. Like I had no idea beyond
That.
what it looked like now, and that's one thing that the younger guys now, I think there's a bit more information around that.
For sure.
I didn't see it.
I just think the times have changed. Like if you look at you're a rugby league fan. Rugby league 20 years ago is very different to rugby league today. I'm sure rugby league players probably take drugs in the off season and whatever, but like 20 years ago, they'd finish a game and get on the cans. Now they don't do that. Like the game's changed, so has real estate. Like society's just changed, but it is interesting.
But like on a Friday, just and like game day Saturday, we just used to be normal, go out for a beer on a Friday, but how present, like far out, how much like doing an open present and fresh, like I wonder. I go, wow, like if all those missed opportunities because I was a fraction tired or I wasn't present, just presence because you had so many opens. So I reckon that's the biggest one, probably being more present at those opens, being higher frequency. Yeah. I reckon things would have been a lot different, but you live and you learn.
Yeah, I'm with you. I probably would have, if I knew what I knew now, I'm with you. I wish I had someone like me or you who was a 40, 45-year-old who had success going, like when I was in my 20s, going like, just because everyone's doing that doesn't mean you've got a great opportunity here. You can actually do better and live better and have less anxiousness and, have more energy. Anyway, those are the things.
It's funny because John never drank, but besides John, like it was like everyone did. So we didn't know. If we knew now, like I said, I tell the younger guys all the time, I said, guys, you want to be great, you got to be, your self-mastery is the first thing.
I love it. Your database has always been pretty important. If we just flick over to that, how many owners how important is an agent in starting their database, and what quick tips would you give an agent in their early years about their owner database? What tips would you?
Relevance. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, firstly, I always say, well, have an idea about where you want to build your data, right? That's the first thing. making sure that you've got like all the details in there and just how we communicate with them. So I started the weekly market update a long time ago. Back in the day, it used to be a monthly newsletter. Then I started to sort of strip it back to a weekly email with every agent sales. I started that back in the day where I only used to send it to buyers and sellers. And then it got to a point where we started to send it to the whole database. So look, with database management, I keep it very, very simple. Owners go in there, weekly market update, listed and sold calls. I now text every time I sort of list or sell a property in the suburb. But with database management, honestly, the only way to really build it is through, those old callback books. I think trolling through RP data and all that, I've never done it, don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And even now, if I have someone on my database that I haven't met through an open home or through a natural connection,
Yeah.
when I have to call them, the call's nowhere near as good.
Interesting. So if I said to you as an experienced profile agent who's had a lot of success, what's the minimum number of owners that I should aim to have on my owner database? What number would you say that is?
Minimum.
Yeah.
Minimum, and this is
The work
like
towards the work like it's
oh, 1,000 minimum, minimum 1,000. I think 500's too light. I think 1,000's a good number.
Yeah.
I'd probably like some agents have got like 9,000. Like I'm not like I've got like 3 or 2.5 or 3, or 3, and I'll only focus on that. Like so we don't want to talk about what I do now, but
no, that's
I
good.
think 1,000's a good goal.
I always say 1,500 to 2,000, but at least 1,000, I'd agree.
Minimum 1,000.
Fair point, CT. You mentioned, like, I've seen a couple of your guys now that have been working with you for 3, 4, 5 years. They've improved, right?
Yeah.
They're doing better numbers, and they've kind of been there for at least 5 years. Roger and
Max
have been there for at least 5 years, right?
Yeah, Max started the Railway Touma group with me about 5 years ago, and Roger came in, and they came in pretty at an elementary level, and they've both come off really good months. But
yeah, so,
it takes
so
time.
if we can just, this is an important point. So we're taking it away from Charles Touma now, and we're looking at a couple of your guys here who I remember, were, like you said, at the very early stages of their career, kind of struggling to get listings, inconsistent. You could have even doubted if they're going to make it, really, for both 100%. Of them. I would, at the level I was. So I don't know if they're going to make it. They're nice guys. I'm not sure. Fast forward to now, and they're doing some big numbers. What's been you've obviously been a good mentor and a coach to them, but why do you think though? Like, what is it about those two? What is it they've done to get to today, other than straight flat out hustle? Because it needs.
I think their mind. So before becoming a good agent, you got to have a good mind. Like you have to believe. So I think when Max came in, he'd lost all confidence, mate. And then all I did was bring him into my team. He started to go to listings with me and see how I listed, and then see how I negotiated, and then same with Roger. And it's a belief thing. Everything starts with the mind, right? And that's another thing that I wish I probably had learned, that, you have to think it first, and you got to believe it. Like that is the main thing. So I think those two, realistically, yes, they applied their practice, but they started to win the mental game and started to believe that they could ride. Max was scared to put on an assistant. Now he's looking for another one. Roger Wardy's got 5 or 6 in his team. I'm building a new office. I'm building a 6-man office in the office just for his EBU, and he's already. But you gotta have this sense of belief in the mind. Everything starts in the mind first. Yeah. And that's one thing I'm even still working on now. Like, making sure that I believe, I know I'm the right person. It's such a mind game. It starts in the mind first, and I think the belief system on both of those, just over day by day, slowly getting more confident, and then this belief comes in. That's what I reckon.
Yeah, I think you've got to have the hustle, which they both clearly have. They're around you, which helps. So again, I think you've obviously been a great mentor and coach, but it's impressive because, and I think what I take from that again, they've both played the long game because they've both been doing real estate for at least 10 years.
Yeah, I met Roger 10 years ago, and I mean, his story was interesting. And Max wanted to get out of real estate when I opened Touma Group. He was working for Billy Caldwell, and the market was screwed. And then he wanted to get out, and I said, "No, come over." And I put him in my team, and then so Max just like cracked $1 million for the first time in this financial year. So for someone like him that was going to go out, and then and he was still in my team 12 months ago, and he was doing like 20 or 30 sales himself. But you got to push them out. Like, that's the big thing about these young guys. Yeah. They got to fight. Like, Hayden Richards is now out. Caden Hickey is now out. So in the 5 years, I haven't poached anyone. I basically had Roger, Max, Hayden, Caden. They're all standalones that have I produced in the last. Caden last month sold 59 Waterloo Street, made a penthouse in Elizabeth Street, 22. Like, they need to be pushed. Yeah. But they need to be supported, and that's the big one. You got to sort of support them in different areas. Roger needs support in a different area to Max, right? Yeah. That's more about their team, where the younger guys probably need a few listings to help them get up the ground.
Yeah, well done, mate. That's good. I mean, they're clearly, you're having an impact with them, and they're clearly growing as agents and people. So that's really good. Your advice around you lose a listing.
Yeah.
How do you deal with, you've lost it, you've thrown the kitchen sink at them, you've tried to do what you can, you lose a listing. What's your advice to young people around when you lose an opportunity like a listing?
I look at all my losses. I've got I look at the 5 lost listings this quarter up there.
Yeah.
So when I go into when I get called into a new one, I look at the whiteboard and I go, what mistakes did I make? I can tell you on the 5 I've lost, I'll tell you every mistake I made.
Yeah.
And then so it's forefront of my mind. So I've got the 5 there.
I'm curious, what sort of mistakes have you made? Someone like you.
Okay, so 8 Jasmine Street, mate, I went straight in. I didn't listen what the client wanted. I had such a good auction track record early this year, and I was like, auction. Mate, they didn't want auction. They'd already bought. If there were the right buyer was around, that sort of, I missed the mark. I didn't listen to what they wanted, right? And then you go 151 Prospect Street. I battled him on price. I shouldn't have. He wanted 4+. It wasn't worth 4+. McClay's about to sell it for 3.6. Why be a dream thief? I didn't need to be that, but I was trying to be too
evaluate.
Yeah, and look, I got the price right, but I didn't get the listing. Yeah. So in that case, I need to be a little bit more open-minded and say, look, I get it. You want 4 million plus. I'm not uncomfortable. If there's a buyer at 4, I'll find it. Here are some of the sales. So I look at that. 798 Elizabeth Street. I lost that to Kirky. I was not engaged. I brought over so many pieces of paper at the listing that I was more focused on fucking pie graphs and spreadsheets than fucking, eyeballs, and I didn't connect because then I said, why did I lose it? They go, the intangible stuff. What's that? Just being present, human, Jason Boone style. So you look at them all and you go, there were things that you do. And that reminds me every time I go in, right?
Yeah. I've learned a lot from those losses, just listening to that. That's awesome that you've broken it down.
Every time.
Really good.
Yeah, every time. And like I said, I only lost the 5. I'm not worried about the 5. I haven't been called into 20. But I think a lot of the time, I'm learning now about what do they want? Ivan, describe what the ideal outcome here is and what needs to happen to validate your decision to sell. Like, what's most important here? What's your preferred time frame? What happens if we don't meet that time frame? So trying to really understand, like, we're expert in real estate, but the client's an expert in them.
Yes.
So I'm trying to understand them, right? And if I can figure out what they want, then I can give them a plan to get them saluted. And that's where I think I've gone wrong so long. Like, you go in and you think you're the expert, because I'm on that Zoom, or the expert, but they're an expert in them.
Yeah.
So you got it. That's where I feel you probably lose most, where you didn't get to the bottom of what they want.
Yeah, so this is gold for everybody because Charlie's obviously a high profile, you know, top 1% agent, he will still lose opportunities because whether he rushes them or assumes or doesn't ask enough questions or doesn't listen. And he acknowledges that. He said, I did this, I ran over the top of them, I told them to do this, I wasn't. And so he acknowledges that. So if Charles at his level is losing them based on this, if you're not at his level, like you have to have your game on big time. Mate, that first few years, if we go back there again, did you know you were going to be a good agent?
I really wanted to be, mate. You know, like seeing you and you and Shan, I really wanted to be like you guys. Like you guys were like, yeah, that's why I just looked up to you both, right? I was like young guys, top of the game. I was like, fuck, man, I just want to be like, I want to do that. So I put in the work. Like I
Yeah.
used to put in, like, and this was the thing, right? Like on a Saturday, I'd go back after my opens, and every single person in Redfern or Surrey Hills that was on my pipeline, I'd email them and say, hey, guys, just letting you know there was 4 auctions today in Surrey Hills. We used to be at an auction at 5 o'clock, in Spencer and Survey auction, 5 o'clock, and we'd make sure we're there. Every open, every auction, and then I'd go back on a Saturday and I'd write an email to all the Surrey Hills guys and say, look, guys, just letting you know there was 5 open homes in Surrey Hills today. The average, there was 23 people that came through. There was 4 auctions. This is what happened. Like I had a spreadsheet of every, and I still have it, the Market Watch, every property, land size, buy, quote, you know, then who sold it, how many registered bidders, the knowledge part of it. So I knew I wanted to be good, but then after I started to do really well buy work and my knowledge was awesome. That's the other one. You're useless without the knowledge. Like I still go like today, yeah. I'm going to go look at, mate, 8 Davey Street, Surrey Hills, 1 in Griffiths Tees. I still go to other agents' opens.
And I coach that, and Charlie still does that. He's going out as busy as he is running the business with all his listings and sales and a big team. He still goes out and looks at half a dozen properties a week that are listed with other agents.
Always.
To make sure, always he's saying, every week, to make sure his knowledge is still up to speed because he knows how important that is. Mate, that's awesome. Mate, I think it's really good what you're doing, mate. I really do. I did have a question and I can't remember it because I just got sidetracked. The commission, when commission comes up, CT, like how do you deal with that if you're behind on a listing? But will you entice them with a lower fee? Like
depends.
Would you coach that to your guys? Would you say to your guys, if you're behind, offer them a lower fee and try to get it?
Yeah. Well, you got to think about it. Like if I'm going up against, if you're a younger agent, right? So what's more important as a younger agent, listing or fee? Listing.
Listing. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, listing.
Yeah.
Well, listing. Like what? The only reason people get caught up on fees, ego.
Yeah.
Mate, if you're in your first 10 years and you're coming up against me, you don't have the right to charge what I charge.
I agree.
You haven't earned it.
Yeah, I agree.
Like the listing. And then you do the listing well, and there's a byproduct, which is buyers, sellers, market share, you know, the opportunity to do open homes in your core market, the opportunity to have do you know how much more value is in the listing than the fee?
Yeah.
Oh, the fee's minimal.
Yeah.
Compared. So think about this: 1% to $2 million listing, 2% 40 grand, 1% 20 grand.
Yeah.
Mate, but you get it at 1%. And then you get 125 buyers through. You get to call your database. You get to do a DL job. You get to do a signboard up. You get to do sold calls. You get to do a social media post. You get to service buyers off the back of it. There is more than 20 grand.
You meet 30 owners that go in your database. Yeah.
And you get to, like, you build your market share.
Yeah.
There's more than 20 grand there.
Yeah, I agree.
So, you know, I don't think
so you're not saying at your level, no, and if you're young, you wouldn't do it every time. But if it comes down to the fee, why would you not? It doesn't.
I'll be on even now. If I want the listing, right? If I want the listing, because there's certain listings that I want because they're good for me.
Yeah.
Fees are relevant. I'll be on. Fees are relevant because guess what? I don't need the money.
Yeah.
I don't need the money. Right? I actually don't. I just do. I want? Does that listing complement who I am as a person, as a business, and what I can get off the back of that? Right? And that is massive. Money, secondary. Money will come.
Did you ever find yourself like what's the hardest thing about this game?
I think the consistency and the disciplines on like over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and the men the head,
mental part.
the head. But once again, like if you like, I look at this when I drink or when I don't drink. If I don't drink, mate, I handle every single part of this game with detachment, and I'm okay. When I'm, frustrated, overwhelmed, usually because I'm not probably looking after myself outside of work, then I lose the mind game. I get frustrated. I'm short. I'm not giving it my best.
Yeah.
So
when you make the right lifestyle decisions, there's a level of excellence which you can't reach when your lifestyle. Yeah, I agree.
You're driving with a handbrake, right? And
so all those days. So there's days that we want to come into work, that we love it, that we're rolling into work, skipping into work, high-fiving.
Yeah.
And there's days like it's a bit like the gym. Like there's some days where you can't wait to get in the gym. There's other days like shit. I don't know if I feel like it. I find work was a bit like that. Like there were heaps of days where I couldn't wait to get in there, and then there was days like, oh shit, I've got to go back. And how do you deal with the days, that you're not amped up, or you're a bit low on energy, or you're a bit tired, or you've been going for too long without a break? How do you do it? Do you just get up, get going, or do the goals keep you going, or what is it?
Depends. If that's one day every month, fucking take the day off. If it's every second day, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
So it depends. You know what I mean? So if usually if you're not having a good day, internal, external, something's going on internally, right? So you shouldn't be going to work not in a bad state if you're eating, training, looking after yourself. There's going to be more to it, right? So as I always say, your results are a byproduct of how you are, how you feel, how you think, right? That's it. Mate, when I go on a roll, if I go on a quarter and I'm not drinking or anything like that, mate, I'm fucking unstoppable, right? Unstoppable. And then when I even have a couple of drinks, I get fucking rolled. I get rolled. I literally get rolled. And I'm going, but I only had 3 drinks. It's like, well, frequency might have been a little bit off or whatever it might be. So, it's all starts with self, body, mind. And the better body and mind is, the better you'll do at real estate. And it's becoming more and more. And I'm changing because my competitors bloody don't drink. So now guess what? I can't drink because I can't compete. There's two agents in my core market that don't drink. One not in Sydney, one not at all. And if I'm going to compete, I can't drink.
Yeah.
Just simple as that.
Yeah. It's funny. I've been coaching, mentoring for the last 4 or 5 years. So I've changed as a person. And lifestyle and those decisions that we as agents and as people make impact our professional lives and other areas. I spend so much time in, it's not just skills or accountability or time management or goals. That lifestyle component is just, mate, you're a legend. One last thing before I let you go. I know how busy you are. What was the most fondest memories of all of us working together? I'm just curious. I don't think people will learn much from that, but I'm curious.
Oh, what are the memories?
Yeah, what were the fondest memories of us all working together? I've got heaps, but what are yours?
What would be, mate? For me, honestly, it was such a mateship back then. Like in the early days, like for me, it was how tight we were. Like we were honestly back in the day, like we were like a footy team. We were like a family, and that's one thing I'm trying to do here. But nothing would ever be like how you guys brought the team, like cross selling, meetings, like we did everything together.
Yeah.
It was that was hard to replicate again, and we were very close. We all worked hard, mate. We all liked each other. We're mates.
You know what we had? You know what I think we had, which is kind of what you're alluding to, and we'll finish up there. I reckon there was several of us, who had an abundance mentality. And because several of us had an abundance mentality, everyone else benefited. It was so much fun. There was no jealousy. There was one competition. We worked together, like you said. We partied together. We just, we were crushing it with the
train. We trained like
we did so much together. You and I had some trips together. Well, we did so much together.
We had a good crew. We had a really good crew in the day, and but it would also, like I said, we had a smaller business. You had a smaller business.
Yeah.
I struggled when it went from smaller to bigger, right? And then you and Chad broke away. Like, I struggled a little bit with that. Yeah. But like the early days, mate, I was like I was playing first grade for the Roosters, mate. It was fucking, it was awesome. It was good times.
That's good, mate. Well, mate, thank you. I think everything you've said today is really helpful. Nothing comes as a surprise. I think it's great what you're doing with the guys in your team. That's really impressive. What you do doesn't surprise me. Like you've always been an amazing agent, so that doesn't surprise me one bit. Really good what you're doing with the team. Thanks for those nuggets today. You're a legend, mate. I'm glad. I'm very grateful for our friendship, mate. Have a great day, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.
Thanks, bros. Bye bye.